Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought what we would do is have a look at some of the kind of UI and hangar changes when it comes to the next major updates, good old update Spearhead. There's a few new things that they're adding in, which I think is pretty cool, and also a few of the features that probably won't get as much recognition, but I think is kind of fun too. So, in this video, let's go through them and kind of show you what they're all about. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. So the first thing is a nice little addition to the profile itself. Basically, you know how they've been adding more profile icons and more frames. Well, now they've actually added some which you can grind out. So you know how you have some which are just for GE, like the wooden with bronze insert, but now you have stuff like the wooden with silver insert where you just have to play some missions, and then also you have some other ones such as these neon green ones, neon orange and purple, where all you have to do is just kind of grind it out and play a bunch of stuff. So you can actually grind these out for basically free. It's another kind of thing to add to the achievements tab, which is kind of fun to complete, and then basically give yourself a little bit more, I suppose, uniqueness compared to other players. So I think that's really awesome, and I'm glad that they've done that. The next appearance thing is much more of a personal thing, and I'm very, very, very glad they've added this because it's been one of the sticking points for many players for a long time. One of the issues that we have in the War Thunder community is you can add as many vehicles from a nation that you want, but a player who is of a nationalist tendency will not be satisfied with it because their flag will not be at the bottom of the screen because they won't be able to see their own flag. Well, now they will. So now these conversations can finally end. So if you are playing the French tech tree, you don't actually have to call it the French tech tree anymore. You can class it as the Austrian tech tree if you really want to. And what it does is it changes the flag and also changes the name. Also, what's kind of interesting is the statistics and battle results window now displays the flags of the operators of vehicles participating in the battle rather than the flags of the research nations of those vehicles too. So even in the post-match screen, your nations that you have been playing in the game will also be represented. Now, the way that these flags work is pretty simple. If a vehicle in the tech tree is from one of those nations, you can actually add it to the appearance. Now, this is only for you, so this isn't for other people to see, but as we know, when it comes to these tendencies, they are incredibly individual, so it doesn't really matter. Basically, people should be happy with the fact that they can display what they want to display, and they can basically change it to what they want. This is a great customization option, and it also means that you can use operator flags in battle as well, so therefore you can see what you're actually using. Now, when it comes to these flags, there is also something else. It doesn't just give you all of the flags basically for free. You can see that there will be certain flags that are grayed out. So, for example, this Greece one for America is grayed out for me. If I click on it, it says purchase your first vehicle from this operator nation to be able to use its flag in game. So if you want to actually use the flags, you will also need to own the vehicles that they're attached to. For example, for America, the Greece one is the Apache, the premium one that exists. But you also have the M1A1 AIM with the Australian one. You have the M60 AMBT for Turkey. And then the Republic of the Vietnam Navy is, I believe, the Kim Kui or something similar to that. And the Philippines being the P-26. So what's really interesting is you have all of these different nations that now you can just set your trees to. And this is kind of cool. It just means that there's a bit more personalization. And also at the same time, it means that people can't complain about their flags not being in the game. And that to me that's top notch. Now I actually have an answer for where is my nation in the game, and I can just say change your damn flag. It also gives people an incentive to purchase vehicles so they can get, the flags attached to them. So it's kind of a win-win for both sides here. Another thing they're also changing, which is kind of interesting, is daily universal backups. So one of the things that we have in War Thunder is you have access to backups for vehicles. What this basically means is if you die in a battle in a game mode where you can respawn, you can just use a backup to be able to get back into the same vehicle again. And even more recently, they added free backups to a bunch of premium vehicles. And at the same time, you can grind them out in the Battle Pass and many other places, right? But what Gaijin have now done is they've added a system where you can get daily universal backups. So players now have access to 5 daily universal backups every day, which can be used to respawn in any vehicle in any mode. So these daily universal backups are not cumulative and are also not items, so meaning they're not displayed in the inventory or anywhere else outside of a battle. They can only be used in battles themselves, and the number of daily backups is restored to the maximum each day at basically midnight GMT, and only outside a battle. So this means that if you're in battle at that time, your backup count will not reset until after the battle. So basically, this just means that you are in a much more positive position when it comes to these things. And I think that's actually really cool in general. So it means that, this whole idea that if you only have like one vehicle in a lineup or issues like that, you should be able to actually just, respawn at least a few more times instead of just leaving straight away. It's another one of these things trying to stop people one death leaving. And basically, this should solve it if the reason people are one death leaving is the actual reason people say that they do, but turns out it isn't. But we'll get into that finally at some point, why people actually do it, which is something I've talked about a lot, but I also get a lot of animosity for. So I'd rather not right now. The ability to use small arms through the HMD in the helicopter cockpit has also been added. So where this functionality is supported in the helicopter systems. So this basically means that you'll be able to use smaller things as well, instead of just like the bigger things, which I think is kind of cool. And, obviously this is kind of linked to like cannons and probably other stuff as well. So you can see here with this, you have like the little kind of crosshair, which follows in. But these hoods are just so crazy nowadays. It's pretty insane. But if you do that, you can see I locked onto the gun there, and that's where it's kind of going to go. So yeah, you can see this functionality, which I think is actually really cool. It's just an additional thing to actually see what's kind of going on with it, and hopefully they can continue to expand these things as they go along. So yeah, pretty nice. Nice little addition to the hood. The next thing is the ability to designate targets with a marker for the teams has been added in custom battles. So basically, it's very similar to like what the squadron battles get, but they've added it to there. And then there's also some sound changes, of course, because there always is when it comes to these things. So tanks with gas turbine engines now sound more natural at distances of 80 meters and beyond. So basically, if you didn't know, with stuff like the Abrams, for example, this vehicle sounds really funny when it's a little bit further away. And now what they've done is they've brought it in terms of sound to be closer to that of a standard internal combustion engine. Now, that doesn't mean that you personally, with your vehicle, when you're right next to it, it will change. But it means as the Abrams approaches things, then it will be a lot harder to distinguish it compared to a standard standard engine that you'll find in other areas. So I think generally that's fine. It just means that it's more on par with everything else, which is what it should have been anyway. Now, talking about some other factors in terms of it, the tracks on other players' tanks now sound louder and are more noticeable. You can probably hear it on this, right? Where you have like a tick that's happening. And then bomb explosions sound now muffle other game sounds at significantly shorter distances than before. So accordingly, engine sounds are also muffled by bomb explosions at distances significantly closer to explosions too. And the firing sounds of the player's aircraft cannons now correspond to the number of simultaneous firing guns of the same type, especially if they're not in sync. So basically, they're adding in what they had for some of the AAs, where in the last update they added it in where if you have multiple guns on an AA system, it sounds kind of interesting because they don't all fire at the same time now, so it sounds like a ripple effect, and basically they've done the same thing when it comes to planes now. So you can hear the ripple effect with the 50s. So yeah, those are kind of all like the additional changes on top of what we've seen around the place. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in this update. It's not as big vehicle-wise compared to others, but there's a lot of cool UI stuff, and there's also, of course, the events that are around it too. So as always, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Have a lovely day. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.